You're listening to the Beat Motel Zine podcast, and we need to warn you that we use words like shit, bollocks, scraptics, fuck, anarcho-syndicalist, and cunt, and we don't normally beat those words out, apart from the word cunt, because we're not total animals. Now, we know as well as you that your children can hear these words on any street in Britain, possibly any street anywhere in the world, but we also appreciate that you may not want to invite these words into your home if you have children or sensitive pets nearby whilst listening to this podcast. So listener discretion is advised. That being said, if your children aren't allergic to hearing words like fuck, shit, buttocks or hind penis, they might learn something from listening to this podcast, although probably not, because the quality of our educational content is quite poor. So there you go, fuckers, buckle in and let's get started. Hey, you're back with Beat Motel, and it's me, Andrew Culture, your host here today. Dr. Sam is off on tour, so he's not here. So I have a substitute, and a very fine substitute. I have a substitute called Jay. Are you Jay Mills today or Jay Volunteer?
I can be whoever you want me to be. Should I be? I'm going to be Jay. I'm going to be Jay Trenchart today. How about that?
Jay Trenchart. Okay, so we are with Jay Trenchart, and we have a theme today, and the theme is bands my friends hate but I adore, which I thought was quite a fun thing, because if I explain how I know Jay, well, I don't know, I've known you for many years. He's a fellow stalwart of the Suffolk noisy bastards scene, both with guitars and with bleepy machines. So we both like some music that, well, I know I like some music that members of my family don't like, but I also like a lot of music that no one else I know likes. Nobody at all. And it's not really in an elitist kind of I'm cooler way. It's just in a I like some weird stuff. It's confusing,
don't it? You play something to people and they just kind of like look at you blankly and you're like, but this is brilliant. And they're like, yeah, you get that.
Yeah, like what don't you get? And then when you've played it to them for like the 50th time and they're still going, what? Why do you like this? Terrible shit. So before we get into that properly, we're going to have Riff of the Week. So
let's talk about Riff of the Week.
Yeah, we've got Riff of the Week.
Yeah, go for it. Do your Riff of the Week.
What have you? So people are not watching on YouTube, so people listening. Jay is in front of a huge wall of CDs, and he's currently scanning them.
Sorry, I forgot about.
Are they in alphabetical order or
no
chronological?
Alphabetical. I'm not going to look for records. But is it my Riff of the Week first or yours? Have you got Riff of the Week? Okay.
It's your Riff of the Week first. I've got Riff of the Week as well, but let's go for yours. It sounds so. Anyone who hasn't listened to this before, we can only do 30 seconds of any track. Otherwise, we get our hands stapled to the desk by PRS or someone.
I was doing my laundry. I checked my pocket. I produced a leaflet, which I proceeded to read. Do you believe? Do you believe? Do you believe? Do you believe in liberation?
So who was that? For you, look, listeners, if you've not seen the video for this, you got to watch this one, because Jay's doing a really good like show and tell during that.
Well, that was
Who
Lungfish.
was that, Jay?
They're a Discord band from Washington DC. They are the best band of all time. They're better. In fact, they're better than every other band put together. They're that good. Yeah, I love them so much. And pretty much all of their songs are a riff, and a lot of the time the riff is pretty unchanging. They've got like 11 albums. 11. And I think in the Discord box set, like people are like, but it's just like one song, and they're like, yeah, but it's a wicked song.
Oh, absolutely. If you're going to get one sound, if it's a sound that you do well, then just crack on. Yeah, you don't have to take it to wild places or anything. But that song was called Non-Dual Bliss.
That's on their first album.
And I certainly like the vibe
Songs for Walking. That one.
I looked at that title for so long trying to get my head around it. So Songs for Walking I get, because, you know, I walk everywhere and I listen to music. But talking songs, is it because it's not fully singing, or am I just thinking about it too much?
Maybe the subject matters, like maybe there's ideas in the songs that you could then talk about. Maybe on a walk with your friends. There's a podcast called The Anonymous Hour, I believe, where they speak like for about 3 hours about every single Lungfish song, and it's brilliant. Like, I've loved the band for years, and then I found like a page on Facebook with everyone else going, "They're the best fucking band in the world, aren't they?" And everyone's going, "Yeah." So it's like I'm not alone in my Lungfish worship. I got to see him once at the boat race, probably in the early 90s in Cambridge. Yeah, and it was just brilliant. Yeah. You know, had the guys, massive beard, standing there like Jesus Christ. I was like, wow, yeah, blew my mind, that gig.
Definitely going to look them up. That's entirely the kind of slightly more. Shellac are all right, but I always thought Shellac were a little safe in some ways, or a little predictable. I think Lungfish sound like they've got that little bit of edge to them. Are they an angry band?
They're not an angry band. Sorry, you keep pausing on me a little bit, but they're not an angry band. They're like
just ignore that.
Their early stuff is more kind of like traditional DC punk, but as they go on, they get a little bit more psychedelic in places, I would say. But yeah, the lyrics are great. Yeah, I highly recommend Lungfish, and there's a really good kind of like Lungfish documentary on YouTube as well. Check them out live, do all that good stuff. Lungfish.
I love this phase of discovering bands because I now know I've got 11 albums ahead of me, and I'll if I get really into them, I'll slow down how much I absorb them because I know I'm going to get to the point where there aren't any.
They're not current anymore. Daniel Higgs does like experimental stuff now, and Azza Osborne, who plays guitar in this band, he does something with just like a Casio keyboard. He's got a female vocalist now as well. But that's like really minimal stuff. But yeah, Daniel Higgs was at Supersonic a few years back. I'm not as into his experimental stuff. But there's another band called Pupils as well, which is Asa and Daniel Higgs, and they're worth checking out as well. Really minimal, but a lot like Lungfish.
It's literally an entire world I have to explore here. Look forward to that. So here's my riff of the week. That is just that was a band called Agriculture, and that song's called the Glory of the Ocean. I mean, I think Agriculture is a fucking terrible name for a band. Just awful, but I think I would play that to anyone who thinks black metal's just total shit. That would be the kind of thing I'd play them and go, look, there's so much in there. There's so much interesting, clever little bits of musicianship. The little stereo bit on the before it then launches into it, and yeah, you've got the driving drums, but there's so much texture and so many other things going on.
Has it got vocals in it at all?
Bloody great. It has, yeah, and then they're not too sort of screamy or Cookie Monster type vocals. They're a bit more like normal person vocals, but apart from the terrible name, I think, God, I get really excited when I hear new music like that. That's quite progressive to my mind. Well, I always say this, and I then find out, oh, they're just ripping off some band from the late 70s.
But that's all right to do that a little bit.
It's absolutely all right. Right, so we ought to get on to the actual theme of the show. So bands my friends hate, but I adore. And here is Jay's first choice. There's this name. Sorry, who's that? Are you going to tell us who it is? and that song was Big Bad Baby
It was
Pig
indeed.
Squeal. And I like that one. I know the name Silverfish, but only for a really odd reason. There was a lad in a wheelchair at the college I went to, had a massive Silverfish sticker on his wheelchair. Outside of that, I don't know anything about Silverfish. So what sort of era
Early
is
90s. So I got to see him a lot when I was kind of like sixth form kind of era. They were based around Camden, I think, although the singer is Scottish.
Oh,
yeah,
English.
so they were on Ouija Records. The Jacob's Mouse and Therapy and various, and then they did all the Riot Girl thing later on. So they were on that label. Yeah, a brilliant band. Leslie Rankin, the vocalist, she also did a project called Ruby, that are worth checking out as well. So she did that with somebody else, and then in later years she did that as like a solo thing, and it's kind of electronica really. But the track Fireweed out of that other project is one definitely to check out. It's a song. It's like a love song she's written to her son, who's like all grown up and he's going out in the world, and she's kind of just saying, "I love you," like embrace life, and it's just a brilliant song. So check out Ruby, Fireweed as well as the wonderful Silverfish.
Cool. I thought they'd sound completely different. I think I might have got them confused with Catherine Wheel for some reason.
Yeah, maybe just female fronted. It was Stereo Lab were around that time, and there was a few kind of acts that were kind of a little bit kind of grungy and a bit noisy. But so grunge was kind of just kicking off really, but they brought a very kind of British and unique take on it. I think. Yeah, excellent band.
Sounds cool. It's certainly got the energy of the sort of the early 90s. Guitars really got sort of edgy after Nirvana. It was always there bubbling under the surface. Nirvana just sort of like opened the doors for so many other bands. I think I've never been that sure if it's really that true or that's just what people remember.
The guitarist from Silverfish, his name's Fuzz, and he still does sound in a few venues in London, I believe. Like he's still kind of like active doing the live stuff. But he was really, really massively influenced by the Birthday Party. So like, and he saw him like loads of times. Like, and in an interview I saw with him, he like saw him like a ridiculous amount of times, and like a massive Birthday Party fan.
I love it when you can't, when it's a joy being surprised when you find out who somebody's influences are, because then I can sort of listen back. I'll listen back to that later, and I'll probably be able to pick out some of the Birthday Party kind
definitely.
of vibe in there.
Even, like the bass player sometimes wears like a cowboy hat. You know, it's like they're a massive nod to the Birthday Party.
And yet, none of your friends like Silverfish.
My wife is a bit of an exception, like Silverfish, and some of my like older mates do. But it's more when I play it to younger people that I'm like, oh, you know, this is who we used to, you know, go and see, and they're kind of like a little bit like, don't really get it, you know.
So they sort of similar part of the scene as, I don't know, I'm trying to think, like Mega City 4.
Yeah.
Senseless Things, Ned's Atomic Dustbin. The gigs at that time, I remember being completely different to any gigs I've been to for years, because we all used to jump up and down.
I saw Silverfish play at the Lead Mill in Sheffield when they were on tour with the Senseless Things. Visiting my mate Paddy.
Sheffield? Right.
And there was a gig.
I think
when Silverfish played a lot, but like they were one of those bands. It's like, they're playing Norwich and Cambridge. I'll go and see them twice and get on the stage and take the microphone, and they'll be like, that guy again, you know.
Oh, fuck's sake, not him again. So were you a stage diver then? I never had the balls to do it.
Diver, yeah.
Any injuries?
You know, it's like, I think, no bad ones though, you know, bad back, maybe a bloody nose or something, but all in good fun, so it's fine.
We just don't see stage diving anymore. All the everyone jumping up and down thing. The two things that seem to have died out. I used to like seeing stage diving at the waterfront in Norwich, because the ceiling was so low there. People have to like duck, so like little squat animals jumping off, and then the crowd is more like they're kneeing people in the face and
It
actually
is a
kind of
great
jumping off
feeling
the stage.
doing a stage dive, though. It's like, I guess it's like going to gigs and feeling like you're not just watching a band and you're part of it, and you get on the stage and it's kind of like a two-way thing. I think that's kind of like, I think that's part of the magic of it, really.
I get that. That was what excited me so much about when I first started going to gigs. I mean, I'm even doing like bands like Blur. Used to see them at Colchester Union, tiny little places, and it was never. It felt so much nicer and so much more welcoming than any other music I remember at the time, which was like fucking Eric Clapton being on a 15-foot high stage and all that shit. We'd go to gigs and I saw the Verve, and they were supposed to be supported by Oasis actually, and it was at the Waterfront. And we're just having a chat with the band in between songs, literally like having a gas with the bassist. Like, how you doing? All right, got to play a song now. Hang on.
I've like been to festivals, but I've never been to like a big gig. Like Brixton Academy is probably the biggest venue I've ever been to. I did have tickets. This leads me on to my Christmas mug. Actually, I did have tickets to see REM. I never got to see REM, but I had tickets to see REM at the Milton Keynes Bowl, but the drum was poorly, so they didn't play in the end. But this is a cup that my niece got me for Christmas that I got yesterday. It says, "I've still got the hots for Michael Stipe" on it, and it's a true story.
I fucking loved REM. I never saw them live. They played in Ipswich, so they played 3-minute walk from my house, and I still didn't see them. But oh god, they were one of the first bands that I realised a band could actually be kind of quite intelligent and actually have something to say without being preachy. And then they got really massive. I remember I got Dead Letter Office and Eponymous, the first one, and really loved them. And then I heard Orange Crush, Stand, and I got so obsessed. I mentioned it on the last episode. Actually, I just played it again and again and again until my dad came up and knocked on my bedroom door and asked nicely to stop.
That album REM Green, it's in my car right now. It's probably my favourite, but it's the one that I heard like the most. But we've gone off topic, haven't we? Does that not matter?
That doesn't matter. Okay. So I'm trying to think. I have been to big, massive gigs. I was tricked into seeing Red Hot Chili Peppers in Hyde Park, which that crowd was the worst fucking crowd I've seen in my life. It was a load of yobbish man boys who were, but supported by support act was James Brown, so I got to see James Brown, which was pretty cool.
It must have been like Reading, probably Reading Festival years ago. I remember sitting. There was like some bins by one of the traders, and we were like literally sitting on top of the bins and had like quite a good view of them. But yeah, I'm not a fan at all of the Chili Peppers, but but good luck to them and that.
I was just going to let you keep talking then. It was like watching a balloon just slowly go down. Good luck to him and that. There you go. If you're listening, Antley Clitoris or whatever his name is, then good luck to you.
I do wish him all the best and that. Keep doing what you're doing, guys.
Right. Right now, let's have my first choice. That was.
I don't know who it is. I was trying to guess. I make my wife play Guess the Band. I put something. I go Guess the Band, and she's like, "Oh."
She's like, "Oh, I'm having a shit. Leave me alone." It's Prolapse.
I have, yeah.
Have you heard the name?
Yeah, I'd heard the name of the first band as well that you mentioned, but I think maybe you've posted something on our little Telegram thread about them, maybe.
Yeah, we got a Telegram group full of fellow oddities. Yeah, Prolapse are a band who I saw almost by accident at Norwich Arts Centre when I was possibly 15, and it's half Scottish, half from Leicester. And at the time, they were signed to Cherry Red when Cherry Red was still putting out original stuff. And you were talking earlier about feeling part of the performance. This band was so nice to us. We were just a bunch of little Narfler kids, and there was a bit of hype around Prolapse at the time. And actually, I've just realised all the tracks we've chosen really sound early 90s so far. There's a definite sound. I couldn't find a better sounding copy of that, which they must
elements
exist.
of that, it kind of like reminded me of Parquet Courts a little bit.
Well, this is the bizarre thing. Prolapse were never massive, and in fact, the second time I saw them, they got dropped by Cherry Red that day. They'd literally just found out, but Cherry Red dropped everybody. They dropped all the acts on the whole label. But later on, they reformed at the request of Mogwai and supported Mogwai at the Roundhouse, and they toured with Sonic Youth in America, and they're one of those bands, I think, where not a lot of people liked them, but a lot of quite important people liked them, if you know what I mean, like the Velvet Underground or whatever. But good stuff.
The latest Mogwai album's really good. But George Perks, who plays bass in my band Rats as Big as Dogs, he engineered that, I believe, that Mogwai album, the latest one. Yeah.
Oh, did he? God, bloody hell. They always have really good people around them. I saw them at the first Latitude Festival, and they played on sort of half volume, played really quietly for about the first 10 or 15 minutes, which at that stage of Mogwai was like half a song. And when everything kicked in, it suddenly went really, really, really fucking loud. You see the whole audience going, ah. And a few weeks later, I was at Reading Festival and hanging out with loads of us from a forum called Punk News. All used to go to Reading, and we'd all be like the only time each year you saw your mates. And I was chatting to this guy I know called Brento, and he was going, "Oh, do you see Mogwai?" He said, "The sound was probably shit, wasn't it? Tell me you think the sound was shit." And this guy was stood next to him, just like rolling his eyes. And then I said to his mate, "Were you the sound engineer?" He went, "Yeah, I was." He said, every time Brento finds out somebody went to go and see Mogwai, Lewis goes, "Oh, the sound was shit, wasn't it? Go on, say it's shit."
Oh, sorry,
right. So we better crack on.
Okay.
Just don't ignore that. Just believe it's fine.
See, yeah.
Just doing like the Stevie Wonder thing. Right. So your next choice is one I find challenging, I've got to say. I was scared of that. Who was it,
Sheep
Jay?
on Drugs, the original incarnation of the band. They're still playing, but Duncan X is now like quite a well-known tattoo artist, and he's no longer in the band. So it's just Lee Fraser who does it now.
So which one's which? Because on that video, who's the guy singing?
The guy singing is Duncan X, who's the tattoo dude nowadays. But when they do it live now, Lee sings it.
Sheep on Drugs scared me, I think, because at the time, all the NME and Melody Maker and Select and whatever, it was all going very slightly hippie-ish and psychedelic with Baggy and Manchester, and Sheep on Drugs came in like a fucking threat. They seemed so gnarly to me, and I even the name scared me because it said drugs.
Yeah, they were really theatrical. Like they used to do things like drink like neat vodka on stage, but I've heard that apparently it was water, really. And they get like cans of black aerosol cans, like black aerosol spray, you know, like car spray or whatever, and like spray themselves with it. But I found out later apparently it was just boot polish, but they changed the labels on it. They would do all this kind of
stuff like that. Actually, we don't get anything like that now. There's no sort of. I mean, you don't need to go as far as like G.G. Allen. Yeah. But I think a bit of theatrics. I did a band where we wore masks and stuff for a while, and that was quite good fun.
Yeah, I saw them at Phoenix Festival. They were really late, but turned up in the end, and that was kind of that would have been, you know, mid-early 90s when they got signed to Island for an album. So, and they were really great. And then I saw them maybe maybe 10 years ago or something, and they're still, you know, they're still good, but they're doing kind of more kind of industrial stuff now, and it's not kind of so. I really like that kind of, although I don't listen to a lot of kind of house music and stuff, I really like the elements that they put in their music, doing that kind of stuff.
It's interesting hearing it with a bit of time between it happening and now, because I think that very abrasive industrial thing was what put me off. But listening back to it now, you're right. It is, they sort of managed to bleed over into like dance music territory, but just gave it a bit of edge, because dance music was all very nice in the early 90s, wasn't it? It was all very formulaic, and I liked stuff like Alternate and Bizarre Inc. and stuff like that, but it was all a bit safe. And now I'm a big fan of having some scary bastards come in and shake things up a bit.
I might have broken the brief a little bit. I do know a couple of people that do like Sheep or Drugs, but most people don't. You know, Ollie, who puts on Noise Corruption, he's a fan. I know another kind of couple of people that are into them.
But the chap who's left in the band still seems to be upsetting people now. I think I hear more about who he's falling out with. Or there's a clip at Kentish Town, that tiny little venue in the basement.
Yeah.
Where the woman, the other half of the band, literally leaves the band during the set.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely a handful. You know, there's no
a polite way of putting a handful.
Yeah, he's like, yeah. There's a story like a friend of mine was like was hanging out with him fairly recently, and she was like, "Has anyone got a lighter?" And he was like, "Yeah." He was kind of doing something. He's like, "I got one in my pocket," and she's kind of like in his pocket, like looking for the lighter. And like after not being able to find it for like a minute or something, she kind of like looked at him and said, "You don't have a lighter, do you?" And he's like, "Nah." You know, like... Oh
man, I was about to align him being a handful and being entertaining to Dean from ENT, but that Dean from ENT, that's not his style. He wouldn't do something like that at all. What would Dean's equivalent? If you got a lighter, Dean would like go, yeah, and then bring one out of when he clicks it, it would be like a flamethrower with flame a foot wide and 3 feet tall, and he just like, here you go. I'm afraid you've got no hair left, and then he'd just go off into the night. Skipping and dancing. Do you know Dean? I should say that before.
I don't know him. No, I have met him a couple of times. You know, like at the Steamboat or whatever. But yeah, Extreme Noise Terror. You know, great, aren't they?
Yeah, I know him well enough to have a decent conversation with him, but not super well. That sort of the whole ENT thing was kind of before my time. But
did you ever go to the Caribbean Club?
Nah, before my time. Too young. So when John Peel was taking the whole family to go and see ENT at the Caribbean Club. The Caribbean Club's not even there anymore. It's a car park now. Yeah, but this venue, I played there and I saw gigs there, but not from that 90s era. But there's a documentary about, I think it's about hardcore, about grindcore or something. And it shows John Peel being interviewed at the Caribbean Club, and he's got this tiny little kid with him who's Tom Ravenscroft. And Tom Ravenscroft apparently he hasn't talked on the radio. You know, he's a Six Music DJ. He has talked about like being dragged to hardcore shows by his dad when he was really, really small.
Like toddler holding a bunch of demo tapes his dad had been given.
God, people must have really like hassled John Peel, because we sort of like John Peel's sort of seen as like benevolent uncle or something if you grew up in Suffolk. We used to send tapes to him, and we just used to put on the address John Peel, Suffolk. And I often wondered if he ever actually got anything. Yeah. But well, we never got a Peel session, so that's part of my that's the only thing, the only possible reason for us not getting a Peel session. But it's part of my trilogy of BBC regrets. 3 things that I'll never be able to do. I'll never be able to play on Top of the Pops. I'll never be able to do a Peel session. And I can't remember what the third one was.
It still blows my mind that they stopped doing Top of the Pops. They should just kept doing it. Why not? Why did they stop?
Yeah, why have they?
I mean,
BBC, if you listen to this, sort it out.
Yeah, I mean, it was only on for half an hour. They could have slightly reinvented it. Like, you know, I mean, I don't know what's number 1 in the charts right now, but as a kid, you always knew what was number 1.
Well, isn't it just become a nonsense now, though, because it's downloading and whatever? So you apparently, now I'm going to sound like a proper boomer here, but there are times where the top 10, all 10 tracks will be like Ed Sheeran. So, but like number 10, Ed Sheeran, number 9, Ed Sheeran, because an album comes out and each of the songs gets listened to loads and loads of times. But yeah, BBC, if you're listening, sort it out, will you?
Yeah, for Christ's sake.
Drop Strictly, just put Top of the Pops on instead. Right, on to my next choice. I'm not even going to bother asking for you to guess. Although I'd be amazed if you did. You're just see if you can have a lucky guess.
Is it Unreleased Works by Supermerger?
No, it's not. It's Francois X, who's a Parisian lad, and I looked up his album. He's the classic kind of DJ'd for years, then started putting out music. And I listened to his album after reading an interview with him. I cannot remember where, but this album, which I can't remember the name of at the moment, but that's a track called Blurry Youth, and I love it because it's so minimal and so slightly off kilter that I think that's almost perfect progressive techno, because it's not what you'd expect. I love like warehouse techno, it's like with the hi-hats on the 16th or whatever it is. But this, I just like it. I find it slightly unsettling in a way that's quite pleasing. But nobody I've sent links to for any of Francois X stuff will even acknowledge that they've listened to it. It's just one of those things that I think's bloody great, and no one else appears to give a shit about.
No, it's cool. Definitely for me, like kind of stuff on the ambient or noise end of things. Like you have to be in the right frame of mind to listen to it. If somebody sends you a link to a song, you can just be like, oh yeah, I like that, or I don't like that. I'll listen to it when I've got a bit more time. Like that's me doing it on my phone. I'll listen to it properly through speakers later. But I think, you need to kind of sit down and stuff that's kind of more like that. You've got to like really be in the right frame of mind, sit down and give it a proper listen.
I think you're right. I think you've hit the nail on the head. Absolutely. Because it's not, it's not every day. You don't wake up. I can't abide hearing stuff like that before about 11 o'clock in the morning. I don't know why. I don't like any techno first thing in the morning. It's just too much. I mean, I can't cope with that much stimulation.
Yeah. No, interesting. I'll have to check him out.
Francois X. Hey, it's good stuff. Right, let's move on to something that... Now, I thought you'd misspelt snuff when you sent me the list of tracks.
Although I do like snuff. So...
should we play it? Let's play it and then we can talk about it.
Dead man about town. Dead man about town. Mind demented, twisted and turned.
So many questions, but tell us who it is first.
Right, it's S.N.F.U from Canada.
That's how you say it.
Yeah, it stands for
Jay's not frozen, he's just thinking.
No, society's no fucking use it stands for, but I've always known S.N.F.U. So they're a Canadian band. They're a hardcore punk band that I hold in as high regard as, like 7 Seconds, Minor Threat, Bad Brains. They're really up there. And like Google them, and like you Google an image of a band and there'll be the single like jumping in the air. Like you look at S.N.F.U. and it's like, how the fuck did he get up there? He's like he's like really, really high up. But that song that he wrote, brilliant band. The singer suffered mental illness, drug addiction, and his story it's on YouTube actually. It's called Open Your Mouth and Say Mr. Shy Pig. And you should definitely watch it. It's like such a brutal story. So like He lost his way so much. He ended up selling his record collection. The singer, he sold his record collection, all his like action figure collection that he had, and he was living on the streets. And it ended up being other musicians were just like, he's going to die unless he's on the road. So let's get the band going again.
Oh wow!
So he did actually pass away in 2020. But he was a genius. The way he writes lyrics, the whole band are great. But Lee, the singer Lee Pig, it's like a brutally sad story, but an amazing band. I got to see him in the mid-90s when they were, when they were still pretty much on form. And then I saw them and that's kind of why I've chosen this band. I saw them in Norwich on a Tuesday night when they did a tour maybe 6 years ago, and there was like 20 people there. And I'm like, you're missing a legend.
I know the name so well through when Beat Motel was a paper zine, and you could pretty much never read a punk zine without reading about this band. So I'd never actually heard them, but God, yeah, I'm just looking at just on a Google image search, and the pictures are absolutely amazing, really cool.
I really recommend watching that documentary. It's brutally sad, but it was amazing. I got to kind of like sit with him just for like a little while when I saw him play in Norwich, and I said, thanks for the haircut that I ripped off when I was like a kid. That was great. It suited me, cheers kind of thing. But yeah, amazing band, and the story's just, a really, really sad story. And that song that I played is so untypical, but he wrote that song on his deathbed and was put on YouTube the day that he died.
Oh right, that's what one of my questions. Yeah, it's one of my questions was going to be. I thought S.N.F.U. were a kind of a hardcore or like a thrash band, so that's why that song was really confusing, because it's also quite discordant and out of tune. Which it makes sense now. I know the story behind it. I wasn't going to mock it. It would just. It's just what I love hearing stuff like that just poses more questions than it answers.
He did a little cover for a little while of Nine Inch Nails' "Hurt" in kind of the Johnny Cash style, and this song kind of hits me in the same way as that song. In that kind of, he's just saying, right, I can have a rest now. I want to just be mixed up with the cement and be a part of everything. And at the end, he's like, goodbye. I'm going to miss you guys.
Fucking hell.
And it's just like, oh, bless him.
Well, I'm so far kind of your choices. I'm not sure about Stoop on Drugs, but Silverfish, definitely going to look up. Lungfish, I'm going to look up. You got any more bands with the fish in the title?
Hootie
and the Blowfish is the only one I can think of. I'm not going to recommend them to anyone.
There is. I have thought about this before. There's quite a lot of fish bands, isn't there? Fish from Marillion. Really?
Yeah. Quite a lot of fish bands.
I can't think of any at all off the top of my head. But yeah,
that's disappointing.
Yeah, right. Anyone wants to start a band with fish in the title, I'll probably be into it. Probably.
It's really nice that all of your songs, actually, because we've only got one more of your choices of yours. The bands all start with the letter S.
I know. It was kind of like I went through kind of pulling some stuff out, and I was like, right, what am I going to choose? But then
it wasn't just that you turned around to your CDs and only looked at the S section.
I pulled a few out, and there was a bit of a clump there, and I was just like, I'm just going to go for the S's.
Right. So we could. Oh God, it sounds like a whole nother podcast going like doing A one week and then B the next week. It'd just get depressing that we like so much music that none of our friends like.
I know. But there's so much out there, isn't there?
There is, and this sort of thing that I'm going to play now is a good example of something that is out there. Oh, do you want to have a guess?
No, but I'm going to know who it is. I'm going to have heard of them, aren't I?
I don't know is the honest answer. They're called These Arms Are Snakes.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. and they are, well, that's probably about the most modern choice on the list so far, actually. And I saw them supporting. No, I did a photo job. Do you know James Sherry, PR
Maybe.
guy? I think you probably do. He's definitely moved in the same circles as both of us. But he used to give me press passes to get into gigs in London. I'd take pictures, and sometimes he'd use the pictures, sometimes he wouldn't. And I went to go and see this band, having no idea who they were at all. And they were supported by a band called Russian Circles, who I now absolutely adore. Russian Circles weren't easy to take pictures of because they had all the lights turned off. It was literally pitch dark.
Flash.
Oh no, you can't use flash, dear God. And this band came on, and they started, and the singer was a guy called, now I want to say Cyril Sneer, but I think I might be wrong, because I think Cyril Sneer was in Raccoons, was it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But he came on, and he threw. I was in the in the photo pit, in front of the barriers. He threw a bottle, and I don't think he'd seen I was there, because this bottle smashed right next to my head, literally showered me and all my camera gear in glass. And he got this look on his face when he saw me. He was like, "Oh fuck!" It's like, he wasn't like, he didn't like break the coolness, but to actually apologise. But he had this kind of like, ah. But that band, These Arms Are Snakes, I'm hearing a direct link between that and Lungfish and Silverfish. To be honest, it's rhythm over complexity.
Yeah, they were like part of that kind of like post-hardcore thing, weren't they? That was kind of like a little bit emo and a little bit mathy at times. Were they in that kind of world?
Yeah, absolutely. They were definitely more on the sort of the punk side of things, but without having the punk like visual aesthetic. If you know what I mean, they was just sort of outsiders and a bit strange.
Where are they from?
Somewhere in America. I think they were on Bridge 9.
Right.
So they were definitely hanging out on the on that post-hardcore kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I never really thought of them as being post-hardcore. I sort of disregarded post-hardcore. I didn't really get it at the time. I'm probably more likely to get it now.
Yeah, but I think post-hard it's a bit of a weird genre name, and it's quite a wide name, isn't it? Like post-hardcore, you get the stuff that's kind of just like slower hardcore, but then you also get the kind of more kind of out there mathy type stuff that people call post-hardcore as well, like Shah Halud and that kind of thing. Would people call that post-hardcore? I think they probably would.
There's post all sorts. There's well, I play in a post-rock band, and I'm gonna go and look back at more of those bands. Would bands like Little Brown Bike, were they?
Yeah, they were kind of. They're all that kind of like. To me, they're kind of like almost like that slightly emo thing that came out of the back of kind of Hot Water Music and that kind of stuff. It was kind of that. All those bands were on. All those bands were on the Props BMX videos that came out like every other month. So like Small Brown Bike, I think These Arms Are Snakes, all those bands were like on I think These Arms Were Snakes. Certainly that niche were like really, like Lucero and bands like that were on all those videos.
I really liked them because I liked the aggressiveness and again the slight scariness of seeing them live. I saw them a few times. Weirdly, I saw them supporting Pelican, which doesn't make a lick of sense to me at all. But I like songs that go somewhere. I mean, as much as I love hardcore and I love that kind of, just thrash it out and get it done. I really do.
Yeah.
But I also like it when things slow down a little bit and have a decent length, middle eight, and muck around with the dynamics. Because when you see a band live that can do that live, it's always really, really effective.
Yeah.
It can sort of silence a room when it's done well. But no other fucker I know will even give time of day to These Arms Are Snakes.
So to go back to S.N.F.U, when I saw them in the mid-90s, it was a weekend where me and my mate went to London to stay with a BMX friend of ours, and we saw Fugazi and S.N.F.U in the same weekend and rode Rom Skate Park.
Rom Skate Park. I should explain that. Yeah, I partly know Jay through, well, you're kind of much more of a BMXer than a skater. But
yeah, really, yeah.
Yeah, but called Rom Skate Park. Last time I skated there, I thought I'd broken both my wrists. That place is... No, I shouldn't. Well, it's kind of all part of it in this game, but that place is so gnarly. It's so difficult. If you fall over at Rom skate park, it's like falling over on a cheese grater.
Yeah.
But you know, out the back where there's that snake.
Yeah.
And then there's like a really deep bowl.
Like a clover
And I'd got
next to it.
Yeah, and I dropped into that. Well, sort of rolled in because it didn't have a lip. I'd rolled into that so many times, just like as a part of coming down the. And I'm not much on transitions, but I did it so many times, and then it's always when you're tired.
You know,
tried to do it the other way
than the other two, don't you?
Yeah,
Maybe.
No. Now I know because I went to roll in the other way. So I kind of the way I'd gone in, I didn't realize it was steeper. So tried to do it the other way. Basically, just fell. Just instead of like I couldn't keep the board against the concrete at all, and I didn't have wrist guards, and I slammed down. And after a week, I went to the hospital because I'd broken something. But I have wrist guards now. Well, and actually, I haven't skated at Rom for bloody years now.
Wrist guards are brilliant because you just break your fingers instead.
Good God, yeah. Have you seen the Rom documentary, Rom Boys?
I think I have.
There's a couple of people I know in it.
Yeah,
just happened to be there when they were filming.
Because it's listed now, isn't it? It's like protected. Yeah.
It is. God,
they had a massive fire, didn't they?
That was just after I was last there, but it basically burnt the wooden ramp that they had indoors. But fortunately, you can't really burn concrete that well. Although concrete does explode.
It had, yeah, it does, doesn't it? It had an old school BMX or mid school BMX collection in the building that burnt.
Oh no, really?
Yeah. So and you still see, like, I keep my eye on that kind of thing a little bit. You know, I've got a mate that's really into like collecting mid school stuff, and there's still like, you know, a completely like fire burnt STA, like you see pop up online every now and again and stuff like that. So the stuff's still kind of about, but yeah, it was somebody's like, yeah.
It's like life's work gone. Right, so let's go for your last choice.
This is my last song about Satan. This is my last song about Satan. Well, this is my last song about
Satan. That song, we get 30. We can use 30 seconds. It was a challenge to get 30 seconds out of that song. It's so short. Who was that?
That was Slim Cessna's Auto Club. So they're a band from Denver. Slim Cessna they've also got kind of another main guy, which his name's Jay Munley, who does other stuff. And they're like, I first came across them when they were on a alternative technical sampler. So they were on. So although they're like Americana, country.
Oh, they genuinely are because there's a lot of bands who will have one or two tracks like that. Like Pansy Division sort of had a few that would come across as a lot more Americana.
Yeah, no, they're cowboy hats, buckle belts. They're fucking cowboys. You know, they're full on. They're
living
country.
it.
Yeah. But they've got like a real kind of gothic element in there as well. And they're a band to check out like live on YouTube.
I struggled to find the studio version because I rip all these off YouTube, and the cheers and like the huzzahs, but you know the response that the beginning of this song gets at any gig they're doing, is it like one of their most popular?
I don't think when I've been flicking through, I've seen them do this one live very much. In actual fact, so it's probably not. That was off of their second album, which was the first album I got. And you're always kind of warm to the first time you hear a band that you like, right? Pardon me. But no, I don't think I've seen them do that live. I saw them play in London on my 40th birthday. I'm 50 now, so that's 10 years ago. And I've broken the rules again because. Have you heard of the band from Bury called The Vitamins?
Name rings a bell, but that's one of those brilliant names that just sounds like if somebody hasn't already used the name The Vitamins, then someone should.
Yeah, they're like a sleazy kind of garage band that are really good. But Dickie, the singer from that band, he really likes them as well. So he was there in London. But the two like singers in the band, they're really, really tall, like really tall. And they do this thing where where obviously you want to get your selfie taken with them, you know. So you get your selfie taken with them. They do this thing where they kind of like put you in front of them and they just kind of like tower over you like that for these selfies. So they come up online quite a lot. But it was my birthday and I'd had a few drinks, and at the venue they didn't let you take the drinks outside. So I was outside getting my photograph taken with them, and my wife was holding like both of our beers like in the doorway to the venue, and the band were just kind of like getting their photograph taken with me, but kind of just like looking over to her, just shaking their head a little bit, because I was just like, they were like, you poor woman having to put up with this drunk idiot. But Dickie was just the same as well. A really great kind of dark country band.
I'm literally on the cusp. We talked about dropping in a skateboarding context earlier. I'm just on the cusp of listening to country. It was the enemy for so long, and I felt the same way about metal, to be fair, when I was a teenager. But I just keep hearing stuff I like, and ultimately you have to get to the point and go, well, look, turns out I do like it. But I think I was put off by all that Garth Brooks bollocks when I was a kid.
It's as wide a genre as rock and roll, isn't it? There's so much in there to kind of like find. Some bits of it going to float your boat and some bits aren't, I guess.
There you go. You've summarised the whole of music.
Yeah.
Right. Let's move on to my last choice.
Right.
Ooh, did I click it? Won't load.
Oh no.
Right. I'm going to have to reload it. Bear with me. La 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 la. I'm filling. Right. Just going to get it back in. Then I've got to turn it up. Here we go. Fuck's sake, why won't you play?
You've broken it.
I clearly have broken it. Ah, nuts to it.
Sing it like Nevermind Buzzcocks.
That would be so bad. When I get it fixed, you'll hear why that would be so bad. It would be the most awful thing. I don't know if you'll be able to hear this or not. Oh, screw it. Tell me if you hear music. Can you hear that?
No.
Bollocks. I just can't get it to work, but it's a not really a band, it's an act called Gravediggaz with a Z at the end.
Right.
And they are like they were one of a very small number of bands in a genre called horror hip hop or horror hop or something like that. Now I heard this album when a friend lent it to me when I was about 15, and I've always liked hip hop, but I sort of hip hop to me was Run DMC and quite safe stuff. I didn't then, and I still haven't got around to getting obsessed with the Beastie Boys. I know it's going to happen at some point, but this band is the kind of hip hop that's really off kilter. It's not just a typical sort of 808 kick doing stuff. It's rhythmically awkward. Oh, God, I'm really pissed off I can't play it. But the song, if anyone's listening and wants to hear it, was 2 Cups of Blood. And then I discovered years later that that RZA was one of the band, RZA from Wu-Tang.
Right.
And he made this album before they did anything, before Wu-Tang got signed. And I think that's probably why no one I know likes Gravediggaz, because everyone just goes, well, it's a Wu-Tang offshoot, which it kind of isn't. But I tell you what, stuff like Clipping, or who's the other really scary hip hop?
Death Grips.
Death Grips, yeah. Death Grips. So this is early 90s, but definitely along those lines. And none of my friends like it.
When you mentioned it, hip hop came to mind, so it's somewhere in my subconscious. Although I'm not a big hip hop fan really, but I do love Death Grips. Hip hop's a wide genre. Some bits are going to float your boat, and some bits aren't.
I think that's as good a conclusion as we're going to get. So well done for anyone who's listened to all. This is the 55th episode of the Beat Motel podcast. So if you've listened through this far, that's the conclusion you might have been waiting for, which is all music's. What did you say?
Some will float your boat, and some won't.
There you go. With summary of all, of all mankind's recorded music, Jay has just summarised it. So I think that about wraps it up, actually, unless there's anything else you want to add.
No, it was fun though. I like talking about music. I make no secret of that, really.
It was very good. I very much liked it, and I want to know kind of what's in all your other CDs. So we'll have to get you back in the future for another episode. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye. Do you want to say goodbye?
Yeah, goodbye, everyone. Thanks for having me. Enjoyed it. Cheers.